Welcome to Gate City. Welcome to Gate City Chatter, a podcast showcasing the creative people and cultural happenings that make Greensboro and our surrounding states and areas a great place to be. This is Josh Herrick, your host, as always, with Gate City Chatter, joined by my co-host, as always, Matt Feltz.
What's going on, Josh? Happy to be back with our first ever return guest, Jessica Rambo, with the Painted Buffalo Traveling Studio.
Very nice.
Jessica, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. So before our technical glitch there, we had sort of talked about the last time you came on and where you were at with the bus. You had bought a bus. You had driven it from New York, I think, all the way down and down here, and had really started sort of working on it, gutting it, and coming up with plans for it. And now you're pretty much fully functional, correct?
Yeah, we're moved in. We've moved in August 1st, 2019. So we're about 9 months into our living on a bus, and there's a lot of growing that happened between my kids and I here, and we're really taken to it and love it.
Well, I'm looking at the pictures on Instagram now, and you're on Instagram and Facebook and all the social media as far as I can tell, and you can really see, you can get a really good grasp of the sort of progress that you've made on that bus. And I dare say you moved into your bus around the same time I bought a house, and your bus looked better than my house. So that's a problem on my end that I should probably fix.
Well, I mean, I only have 230 square feet to work with. You probably have a little bit more than that. So, you know, we all have our strong suits, Matt. It's all right.
Nice.
It's a great job. I'm looking at it right now, and just the stylistic decisions you've made, like in the bus. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I wanted it to look and feel homey because I'm a mom and I have kids, and, you know, I wanted them to feel safe. If it was up to me, I would have just put a mattress in the back of my Jeep and drove around the country, but I wanted to make them feel safe. So I made it as homely as I could possibly make it, with still having, you know, my artist and personal touches to it, kind of rugged like.
Nice.
That brings up a good point. I was just thinking, Matt, you know, maybe somebody hasn't listened to our previous episode with Jessica, so we should probably have some explanation. So Jessica, you are an artist. Give us like the 30-second again, because I don't know how many people have listened to our previous episode, but we certainly hope that they do. But tell everybody about you have an incredible history. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it because we talked a lot about it last time, but can you give us like the 30-second rundown of, not 30 seconds, but, you know, the rundown of yourself?
Right. So my top hats I wear, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served 10 years in the Marine Corps, and I was medically discharged after a pretty horrific car accident. I'm a mom of two. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I met you guys when I was going to UNCG, Greensboro, as an art student. And now I'm a schoolie builder and tiny house liver. And I've kind of morphed it into this nonprofit to give veteran another outlet of, you know, self-expression through art.
That's awesome.
You got way out in front of that social distancing thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of my bus and van life friends have really been talking. You know, we also are all on social media, and we see all these memes and funny jokes and everything about and the hardships that people are going through. But we've kind of picked this lifestyle that was already a social distancing, you know, type lifestyle. So we haven't seen too much change, except for, you know, places to park. All the state parks and campgrounds and all of those kind of things are shut down. And those are typical places that we tend to spend nights or, you know, want to visit if you're traveling full time.
Since you've lived in the bus, have you found that your like creative outlets and your creative expression has changed at all now that you're kind of like, instead of just building this amazing thing to live in, have your creative outlets changed a little bit now?
Right. For the last 2 years, I mean, my creative outlet was trying to manipulate household furniture and, household appliances to fit tiny living.
Mhm.
And, that architectural mindset of, making things flow and able to kind of have a family in here. And now, major all finished. And now I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna talk about through my art now? And so now I've just been kind of reliving my past and specifically my Marine Corps career and things, came up in, conversations talking to other veteran artists, what their work is doing. So I try to stay in the veteran artist mode and talk to other veteran artists and kind of play off of what they're doing and spark ideas of my own. And I've started this series now that I've been working on, painting. So it's definitely a great space to sit down and work and have time to work on my art, but there's so much going around, so many cool places to see that it's sometimes hard to maintain those office hours as an artist and get in the groove of creating again.
I can imagine.
So the last time Josh and I did one of these recordings, we talked about some stuff we were working on at home, and Josh is working on a sweet wooden bench or table, and I had mentioned that I was going to work on a painting, and specifically the painting was of a night I had in Iraq, and it's a specific visual image of a sunset in the middle of this sort of like farm area in Iraq, and the contrast that I had, and I talked about how that particular image has just sort of remained in my mind, and with 10 years in the Marines, is there anything that like that stands out for you? Is there any sort of like visual thing that pops out, or sort of a specific inspiration that stems from your time in service?
So right now, it's gonna, you're a veteran also, and I'm having this kind of flip through my past journaling entries, and I don't really write diaries, but I write,
Right.
Just notes and thoughts and everything. And I a couple years ago, when I was getting out in 2016, I was having, just these same type of symptoms of Stockholm Syndrome. Do you know what that is? Where you're
Right.
held captive and the captor, you kind of fall in love with them, or, they're now your protector. It's a survival mechanism.
Right.
And I, had some pretty horrific things happen to me in the Marine Corps. And so I've started to kind of relate my Marine Corps career to Stockholm Syndrome, because we all know Marines are already a little nuts, but we're quite different. No matter how terrible each of a Marine's career was, they still hold on to that I'm a Marine and that's my entity and that's my existence. I'm a Marine and it's all that matters. So I'm trying to, through my work through how can you love something that some pretty terrible things happened.
Right.
That it sounds really bizarre, but I've been kind of processing that. But like always, it's my beloved core and it's in me and it's made me who I am today. It gave me the tenacity to be able to, go from art school to buying a school bus to still serving my veteran community. So there's a lot of good things that come from service, not all bad, but I'm in a place of self-discovery and, kind of self-healing. And that's one of the things that, I really wanted to talk about in my art is, my experience of how I so badly can love the Marine Corps, but how, like everything, some bad things can happen too.
Yeah,
It's
it's a weird, specifically I can't speak to the Marine Corps, but getting out of the Army, it was kind of a weird, and still remains, especially in times of uncertainty, a weird sort of, you know, I hated it, but at the same time, I almost feel like I should still be there, like to a certain
Yeah,
extent, like especially being
exactly.
in the medical field. I'm like, I see all these people running around in masks and everything. I was like, I feel like I should still be involved somehow, but at the same time, it's probably better that more talented people than I am are serving the sick at the moment. So, but it's good. It's good to see you're on that path, and like hopefully you're finding some sort of like healing and some comfort in the art. And I know you're probably bringing that to other people that you're exposing your art to, and maybe inspiring creativity in other veterans.
Absolutely. During this time, I've really had the opportunity to talk to a lot of veteran artists that I haven't before. We all kind of talk to each other and like each other's photos, comment on each other's work, that kind of stuff. This past week, I did 10 veteran artists live interviews on Instagram, and
nice.
I got to know and talk to and discuss studio practices. Everybody has a different studio practice. Everyone has a different military history. I interviewed veteran artists from every branch of service, more Marines, because they're my buds, but
Sure.
we can't all be cool like us. And just things like that, just staying in that community and kind of living, and hey, I have this idea, what do you think about this? Or hey, you use this and I want to learn how to use that material. What are some tips? And we kind of just have been this staying together but staying apart mentality has really kicked in these last few weeks.
Oh, Josh is going on mute all of a sudden. Oh, look at him. He looks so surprised. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yeah.
I'm alive. Sorry. I was actually typing a note, but I didn't want the noise to.
Okay.
No, see.
So Jessica, my question is like, that's really interesting, like being able to kind of talk about the practice of art. And I mean, in the military sense with other veterans, are you doing it kind of like an exploration of the mental health aspect of your creativity? I mean, or is it just purely like just the mechanisms of creating visual art or fine art or whatever people are working on?
It's a little bit of both. Obviously, my main focus, my quirky little tagline is saving lives through art supplies. But ultimately, that's really what helped me kind of overcome a lot of, stuff that I went through. And most artists, veteran artists that I've been talking to, they too, used art for their own mindfulness or mental health symptom alleviation. And it's a little bit of both. It's helpful to obviously talk about things you're going through, especially with other people that you can say, oh, this and this happened to me, and a civilian might be like, oh, that was awful, or oh my god, I can't believe that happened, or is that true? But when you're talking to a veteran, they instantly know everything you're saying and have probably experienced it also. So that's the number one therapeutic thing you can do is just about it. But when you don't have that option, or it's just not as easy for you to talk about your feelings that way, that's where the art comes in. And, instantly when I say I'm a veteran artist and I'm talking to another person and they're a veteran, we instantly have this bond, and you don't really have to talk about it, but talking about the mediums and talking about, their studio practice and talking about things they pulled from their military service and now they use in their art making, all of those things kind of stem together and they grow, and naturally making work, whether it's welding or painting or writing or singing, all of those things naturally have a mindfulness and a mental health alleviation, because you're able to tell your story through a different means.
Sure.
So just, we talk about art and art making, but ultimately what we're really talking about is how we're getting over the crap we went through and surviving, and how we can use our platform to help others.
That's awesome. I know, Matt, you probably have another question. I just want to say thank you for like your candidness and your honesty. Like I love this stuff. Like it just makes me proud to be able to talk to you about this. So I just appreciate you so much. But sorry.
I'll back Josh up on that too. And the
No,
fact that
I think ultimately, you know, I came to terms with a lot of stuff that happened. You know, it was really shitty, but that I'm a survivor and not a victim. And the more frank I am with things that happened, hopefully no one else has to experience those, or if they have, they know I too have gone through that, so I'm probably a safe person to talk to. So, you know, I had to kind of bite my cheek and kind of get through it, but the more you talk about it, the easier it becomes. And that was a pretty hard lesson I had to learn. And if I can help anybody else in their story, or telling their story, or getting help, or hey, I'm suicidal, can you help me? Hey man, I've been there too. Guess what? I was an inpatient for 16 weeks, you know, at Fort Belvoir. I get it, man. Let's find you some help. And you know, the more I speak out about it, hopefully the more people I can, you know, help out also. And in turn, helping people, you know, of service is my thing. It ultimately helps me because I feel good that I'm, you know, still serving my community, which is the veteran community.
And I think this is you know, it comes at a good time, this conversation we're having, because, you know, I don't know if it was like this when you were in, but when I was in, you know, especially when we came back from deployment, they told us, you know, a lot of the older guys were like, oh, don't worry about it. You know, the people that are having mental issues, they're weak or whatever, you know, you know,
Exactly.
you'll be fine. Just shake it off and you know, keep on going and don't complain about it and don't stop. And, you know, that has a certain amount of influence, but after a little while you realize, you know, that's the wrong answer. Like, you really have to sort of communicate, you know, what's bothering you and what you've been through, and find your sort of path to sort of heal from it. And I think a lot of people right now that are, it's not really comparable, but in your own way, people are sort of going through their own mental issues with, you know, everything that's going on, whether they've lost a loved one, or someone is you know, turned up sick from this virus, or just the sort of day-to-day, you know, having to deal with staying inside all day and stuff like that. And everybody's experiences are obviously different, and those are difficult to compare with, you know, what some of the veterans have seen. But still, like, mental health is now, I mean, it's more important than it ever has been. I mean, especially through getting stuff like this. And you know, it's good to talk about it, get it off your chest, communicate it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that's the number one thing that I have been seeing, you know, throughout my, you know, just my friend group. You know, I am have the ability to just, you know, live my life and not, you know, technically need a job. I'm retired from the military, so I have that kind of safety net. But, you know, when I was going through UNCG, I worked at a bar, and, you know, I waited tables and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And all those friends I made, they are jobless and they're struggling. And, you know, the mental health is creeping in. You can't leave your house. You can't, you know, socialize. You know, that was, you know, a thing that they tell you to do when you are depressed. Go hang out with your friends, you know, do all of these things. And now that's not an option. So I think, you know, the number one thing that I've been seeing people do is have these, you know, Zoom social hours, or these chat groups,
Right.
or, you know, sharing artwork, or, you know, just finding creative and alternative ways to still stay connected. And I think that's really important, you know. And if you don't hear from a friend for a little while, you most definitely need to, you know, check on them, because it's, you know, obviously the coronavirus is a serious thing, but, you know, mental health is just as or more deadly than, you know, that. And so ultimately we just need to look out for, you know, our friends and family around us that are struggling.
Good message.
I think I mean, I love what you guys are saying. I think it's, and Matt, you make a really good point in this time of, like, you know, seclusion, where everybody has to be secluded. It's kind of, it must be a little bit of a kind of a thing for you, because Jessica, because you're already having to deal with this secluded life and kind of creativity. But like for me, you know, like, you're right, we have jobs or whatever. Now we're stuck here. It's been an opportunity for me and for others to see their creative side, and if anything, hopefully out of all this, like I'm going to, be in touch with my ability to create things or to play some music and
Play that
whatnot. And that makes
mandolin.
me feel, what's that?
Play that mandolin that hangs on your
I
wall.
play the mandolin terribly, but I play it for my neighbors every night.
No,
And
nice.
they may or may not like it. I'm not sure, but like that, being able to have that expression is really important. And it's forcing us, just from a business standpoint too, I think it's forcing everyone. We just released this virtual creativity guide where, we have everything from like, bartenders that are teaching lessons on like creative craft cocktails, like, hey, and then they have a tip jar, right? Like you can help them in that manner. I have a 9-year-old artist musician that just signed up to do live concerts. And, I'm sure, money obviously isn't that person's narrative, but like there's these outlets for being able to get people funding and get people support. Ironically, you've been dealing with this for a while as people could support different ways. And maybe you could talk a little bit about your support mechanisms with the bus, but I just find that it's such an interesting thing that we've been able to support artists and those who need the support in a unique way. Maybe it's forcing.
There's so many ways, and I think obviously it's a terrible time, but the creative time that all of these, a lot of artists have to have 2 or 3 extra jobs, to support their lifestyle, because artists, ultimately don't make a lot of money, but they have given you this time to disconnect and get rid of all that stuff. And I read a thing, I'm going to butcher it, but the other day I read an article and they said, in this time, if you haven't learned a new skill or built something or read 5 books or done this, and this, it's not your time management skills it's your initiative. And, you got to use this time to grow and become better. And, there's so many, on Facebook every day I'm watching, a musician, do a tip jar on Venmo, and, because they, their gig at our local bar got canceled, or, all of these different ways, there's so many different ways, but you just got to, do it and, get out there and, think outside the box. This is your, especially as creative thinkers and artists, this is your time to shine. This is the, time to kind of put your stuff out there. Hey, I'm a struggling artist, you need this, or, you need that, I can do it for you. And I really, I've been following, I'm not in Greensboro anymore. I'm actually down in Atlanta for the time being. I got kind of stuck here, but all of these Greensboro companies are coming together and making masks. Hudson Hill and, a bunch of other Revolution Mill, some companies there are coming together and kind of supporting their community. And, oh man, some really amazing things are happening.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, man.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, tell us about the travel. So you 9 months, have you seen anything? Just in terms of like the schooly life, like have you seen anything or been places that you never thought you'd be, or that have surprised you and the family during your time?
Yeah, so far we've only gone up and down the East Coast. We my children and I have been plotting. I drew out a United States map, and we've kind of been putting dots in places, and doing some research on where we want to go. But ultimately, our travels came to a halt, to drive across the country and up and around and go to all of these national parks and things we've been learning about. Our plans are still in place to hit the road June 1st and drive across country.
Nice.
Do you keep a box of MREs in that bus?
I've got a fridge, so thank goodness I, don't need those 3,000 calories.
We're all going to be eating MREs before June 1st. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I guess that maybe I'll stop by the Navy surplus store. I can guarantee they got some. I don't know. My whole trunk is full of ammo cans, and I'm just worried about getting pulled over and a cop saying, "Hey,
Lord.
Open the back of your bus," and I open it, and it's like I have I don't know, probably about 50 ammo cans back there right now. and I'll be able to surprise full of art supplies and coffee and socks and all these donations, these great things, but it really looks like I'm preparing for the apocalypse that's coming.
Oh, you said you mentioned coffee, and it was a few months ago. We talked, and your Buffalo Head is here in Burlington. I saw that.
It is. It's a coffee company. A small plug. Still go and grab some coffee. They have a pretty heightened, safety area here, obviously, like the nation is doing.
Right.
But Buffalo Head, that was in my apartment, that started this whole painted buffalo, is there, and it's owned by a guy named Jim Young, and he's veterans, helping veterans, and he's definitely one of my supporters and sponsors. He's given a lot of coffee and clothing to the Painted Buffalo to hand out our travels. So it's this whole veteran helping veterans thing is really helping us survive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you sort of you faded in and out there for a second, but I will say that's it's a Salvation Coffee Company, correct?
Salvation Coffee Company, and it's
right.
in Burlington, right off of that main road. I can't remember, Church.
It's on South
Road
Church Street,
or something,
yes.
But that main, South Church Street, called.
But a great little coffee shop.
I mean, the coffee is incredible, but sitting in there on your laptop doing homework or doing your work, just the space is incredible. And Jim built it all himself and designed it, and there's graffiti art on every wall, and some of my work is hanging up in there. My buffalo taxidermy, but I have some other artwork that's hanging up, so he's a great supporter.
Excellent. Well, we are coming to the end of our sort of 30-minute time frame here, so Jessica, if you've got anything else like going on that you want to sort of push out there, or anything else you want to say, feel free to go ahead and plug it. I mean, everybody can find you at Painted Buffalo Traveling Studio on Instagram. I think you can search that on Instagram and Facebook. But anywhere else you want to plug, or are you located?
We're on Facebook and Instagram, and I just put down a new website, paintedbuffalostudio.com, and I mean, there is any ways you want to get involved with the Painted Buffalo, you can find it there, whether it's donating art supplies to the paint can project, which is this thing that I've been working, the reason we're traveling across the country with can, a couple of bucks to fill up the gas tank, and keep on traveling.
We'll definitely go through.
So all of that is.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll definitely go through and put a link to all your website and your social media and everything in the YouTube description box below, and then in the podcast description as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Josh, have you got anything else? Why don't you close us out?
Well, I'm happy to, Jessica. Thank you so much for joining us. You're an amazing person. You're an amazing human. You give so much back to other veterans and to everyone in general. So we'll continue to support you the best way we can. And we thank you so much for joining us. You're really incredible. And to all of our chatterheads, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Gate City Chatter. We are going to try to record more often. We'll have another episode coming up this week. And until then, we appreciate all of our listeners and all of our guests. So until then, I'm Josh Sherrick from my co-host Matt Feltz and our guest Jessica Rambo. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.